Wikicast script, last edited in 2020.
Golly.
Good grief. Good golly, it's Marley. That's what Scrooge said when he was greeted by the ghosts.
Lovely. Oh, very nice.
Obscure Victorian literature-based humour. We're back! Hello, I'm Simon.
And I'm Dan.
And this is the Wikicast, a podcast where Wikipedia takes us to a random article and we talk about what we find. Dan, what are we talking about this week?
This week, Simon, we are talking about Oxford Group.
Oh, was it weird hearing that new intro, by the way? That felt weird to say.
It was strange. It was really strange.
We've adapted. We're all okay. Now that we're on the bi-weekly... bi-weekly is twice every week, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like the difference between biannual and biennial. What's the phrase?
We are fortnightly.
Fortnightly, exactly. We are like ninja.
Which is good because Fortnite's very popular with the kids at the moment, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, with their TikToks and their...
and their jib jabs.
And their ripped jeans and all
their
that kind of thing.
job birds and their other Jabberwock-based...
I thought you were going for like an Ewok-based thing.
No, sadly not. No.
They're yub birds. Like, you could just imagine that's what the... You never see... In the original Star Wars trilogy, do you ever see a bird... Like an alien kind of bird. I don't think that's ever like a species that you ever see.
Something flies over the swamp that Luke crashes in.
I guess, but that...
But that's probably not like... That's more like a pterodactyl than a bird.
A pterodactyl, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think you actually ever do. Someone send us... I'm sure we'll get some emails about that. Because someone was wrong about a minor detail of Star Wars. Get in, boys! Right, so the article this week is Oxford Group, yes?
Oxford Group, yeah. Now, so this is interesting and slightly creepy, and it just only leads me to believe more that that my devices are listening to me, because we'll hear what I'm up to later. But for now, Oxford Group. Shall I tell you a bit about it?
Please. The
Oxford Group was a Christian organisation founded by the American Christian missionary Frank Buchman, or Buchman. Butchman?
In Oxford?
I don't think so. I think this is in... No. Hang on, let's read further.
Sorry, I've only had a Wikipedia article on the subject.
I'm having real doubts about how to say his...
How is it spelled? Buchmann?
Just Man.
I think that's still Buchman.
Let's go with Buchman. Buchman.
We'll probably get a few emails about that as well.
Maybe he was just Butch Man.
Like Hugh Jackman. So
he's very butch.
Difference between Hugh Jackman and huge jacked man.
Yes.
Both very fitting.
Not to be confused. Anyway.
Or a huge yak man.
Butch Man believed that the root of all problems were the personal problems of fear and selfishness. Further, Butch Man believed that the solution to living with fear and selfishness was to surrender one's life over to God's plan. Now, he was an American Lutheran minister of Swiss descent who in 1908 had a conversion experience in a chapel in Chiswick, England. That's spelled Keswick, so clearly Chiswick. When he attended a decisive sermon. He attended a decisive sermon by Jesse Penn Lewis in the course of the 1908 Keswick Convention. As a result of that experience, he would, in 1921, found a movement called a First Century Christian Fellowship. By 1931, the fellowship had become known as the Oxford Group.
Right. If you could see, if we had video on this call, you would have seen me blinking furiously as I was trying to keep up with all of this.
Yeah. It's a bit of a cluster.
So the Oxford Group is one of these modern founding churches. I feel like there's about 1,000 of these different splinter churches. Like often they're like, you know, Protestant splinter churches or something, and you see these bizarre names like the Church of Christ Scientist or something like that. You know, you see they have these buildings in unexpected places. It's one of those basically.
Yeah. Gosh, this is strange. 2 years later, this is in 1934, William Temple, Archbishop of York, paid tribute to the Oxford groups, which are being used to demonstrate the power of God to change lives and give personal witness its place in true discipleship. In 1938, Buchman proclaimed a need for moral rearmament, and that phrase became the movement's new name. He headed the MRA for 23 years until his death in 1961. In 2001, the movement was changed to Initiatives of Change. The co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous met through the Oxford group.
Okay, interesting. So there's a lot going on here. This is... So hang on, can we just cycle back to moral rearmament?
Yeah.
What's the deal with that? In 1938, obviously quite an important year for rearming.
So moral rearmament, or the MRA, was an international moral and spiritual movement that, in 1938, developed from American minister Frank... Oh, it's Buchman, yeah. And then it changed. So to summarise, I think it's easier to think of it like this. The Oxford group's literature defines the group as not being a religion, for it had no hierarchy, no temples, no endowments. Its workers had no salaries, no plans, but God's plan. Their chief aim was a new world order for Christ the King. A new world order. God, that doesn't sound good, does it?
Not in 1938, it doesn't.
It's simply a group of people from all walks of life who have surrendered their life to God. Their endeavour was to lead a spiritual life under God's guidance, and their purpose was to carry their message so others could do the same.
Okay. Because that's interesting then, because as I understand it, basically surrendering to God is like quite a key principle in Islam. And the idea that we are all prisoners of fear and... What was it? Fear, anger, hate? What were the
fear
things?
And selflessness.
That sounds an awful lot like the realizations of the Buddha. Like this is an interesting kind of fusion of different concepts that I wouldn't have necessarily put together.
So it's quite a lengthy Wikipedia article.
Is it a cult? I'll just say what we're all thinking, Dan. Is it or is it not a cult?
Well, the fourth bullet point in the contents page is titled History.
Right.
And we have 4 subcategories to choose from. Would you like, for 2 points, campaigns through Europe, for a further 2 points, presence in the United States, for another 2 points, moral rearmament, as we touched on earlier, or for a further 4 points, attempt to reach Nazi leaders?
Okay, Dad, I'm gonna lock in my answer as D. Attempt to reach Nazi leaders, please.
Okay, you've chosen attempt to reach Nazi leaders.
I recommend putter. You have chosen 4 iron. Religious order is in parking lot. Would you like to pray again?
In the 1930s, the Oxford group had a substantial following in Germany. They watched the rise of the Nazi Party with alarm, as did those elsewhere in Europe and America. Buchman, as he will forever be known, kept in close touch with his German colleagues and felt compelled to attempt to reach the Nazi leaders in Germany and win them to a new approach. It was a time when Winston Churchill and Karl Barth were prepared to give German Nazism a chance to prove itself as a democratic political movement, despite its obvious and repeated denunciation of democracy. Hitler had at first presented himself as a defender of Christianity, declaring in 1928, "We shall not tolerate in our ranks anyone who hurts Christian ideas." Buchman was convinced that without a change in the heart of National Socialist regime, a world war would become inevitable. He also believed that any person, including the German leaders, could find a living Christian faith with a commitment to Christ's moral values. So he basically tried to talk some sense into Nazi leadership.
And it didn't really work.
He met with Himmler 3 times.
Wow, that's...
Yeah, he never met Hitler, but he met with Himmler 3 times at the request of Moni von Kramon, an Oxford group adherent.
Have you ever noticed how much Himmler looks like Pyrion Flax?
Yes, I have, yeah.
It's for those of you who don't know, Pyrion Flax is a member of the Oxcast. He's a great guy. I've really, really liked Pyrion. And he does have more than a passing resemblance to... What was Himmler's first name?
Heinrich.
Heinrich, of course it was. Heinrich Himmler. So Google that one if you want a comparison. Okay, well, so he met with... Wow. And basically it didn't work because there are some people that can't be reasoned or negotiated with. I've actually had an experience like that this week, funnily enough. I was looking through some climate change comments because I did a video last week on Greta Thunberg. I went to the march in Bristol with a boy, Adam, who is deep in his uni work at the moment. And I did a video about that, and obviously it attracts certain it attracted an interesting discussion, and there are some very good points brought up on both sides about, why she is and why she isn't a net positive for the movement. But you do get these particularly abrasive comments of basically denying the existence of anthropogenic global warming. And I, for the most part, try to not engage if it's very clear that these people can't be won over. Because much like a Christian talking to Nazi leadership, I think that you do get points for trying, but it's an ultimately quite futile act. You're not expecting to really win anybody over. And I was like, right, this guy's like he laid in this paragraph, and I was like, wow, it's actually amazing. Almost everything you said was wrong. And he was like, fine, I'm going to substantiate every one of my claims. And he listed a whole bunch of links and things. And I was like, yeah, okay, right, okay, cracks fingers. Let's reply to this guy. And then I clicked on, I think it was the first link that he'd put in as like a supporting evidence, and it was literally one paragraph of a newspaper from 1970 or something. And I was just like, okay, benefit of the doubt. And I went on to the next one, and he was like saying something about Arctic sea ice, which directly contravened what this graph was saying, like very clearly. And I was just like, this is not worth my energy. I'm not comparing myself to the Oxford group and this guy to, Himmler, but you have to realise that some battles cannot be won, I think.
So I've come across another bit in this article, and it's the subtitle, under methods. There's a section called House Parties. The first Oxford Group House Party was held in China in 1918. It was then held in Oxford. It was then held in Birmingham. And then it was held, the first National Assembly of the Oxford Group was held in Massachusetts and drew almost 10,000 people.
So why is it called the Oxford Group then? I'm still a bit confused as to that.
The name Oxford Group appeared in South Africa in 1929, of course.
Oh, sorry.
Come on, Simon, keep up, for goodness sake.
Sorry, silly me. I must not be paying attention. Why?
This is quite interesting.
Why?
This is interesting. So, the name Oxford Group appeared in South Africa in 1929 as a result of a railway porter writing the name on the windows of those compartments reserved by the travelling team of Frank Butchman.
Right.
So, to refer to his travelling party, some guy wrote Oxford Group, and then the name stuck. It stuck because many of the campaigns of the Oxford Group were undergirded by Oxford University students and staff. And every year between 1930 and 1937, house parties were held at the university. In the summer of 1933, for instance, 5,000 guests turned up for some part of an event which filled 6 colleges and lasted 17 days. Oh my goodness. Almost 1,000 were clergy, including 12 bishops.
Oh my god, it was
fantastic.
Like that, it was like that plot line of Game of Thrones. The High Septon and all of his wandering priests just turning up at King's Landing. Good grief.
It just gets better and better. They also were they were big into slogans.
Oh, hit me with some. I do love a good slogan.
Pray, stands for powerful radiograms, always yours. They also had come clean, every man a force, not a field. When a man listens, God speaks. Interesting sinners make compelling saints. I've heard that before.
I quite like that, actually, yeah.
A spiritual radiophone in every home.
I mean, they're not the most compelling slogans I heard from the 1930s. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
Keep calm and pray on would probably be like... I feel like if it was actually, coordinated from Oxford. Wow, this is completely new to me, actually. Oh, that reminds me. So I put this on my Twitter. It might be easiest if you actually look at this.
Okay.
If you go on media that I've tweeted, there was a guy who commented something about climate change denial on my public Facebook, and I had a look at his profile, and he had this thing about in his cover photo, which is titled Maritime Admiralty Law. And this is something that I'd never heard of before, but there's like a conspiracy theory. It's also been described as domestic terrorist movement called Freemen on the Land. Have you heard about this?
I found a picture that you've shared.
It's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's comparing when you're born to a ship docking at a port and pointing out the fact that it's a birth and you come out of your mother's water and the person who births you is a doctor. It's insane. People Facebook is what it is, basically. But somebody linked me the Wikipedia of Freemen on the Land, which is a loose group of individuals who believe they are bound by statute laws only if they consent to those laws. They believe that they can declare themselves independent of the government and the rule of law, holding that the only true law is their own interpretation of, quote, common law. This belief has been described as a conspiracy theory. It's madness. It seems to have been quite a well-known conspiracy theory that I was just completely unaware of.
This is very strange. God, it's a thing. Do you know what's odd? This is now the second episode in a row where we've unearthed odd conspiracies. Because do you remember from the last episode talking about Miss China?
Yes.
And the can of worms that opened.
If this podcast were to evolve in some way, it would become a gloom.
Yeah, it would. That's absolutely right.
Because it's not quite odd, but it is odd-ish.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. Very fine. Did you hear that sheer exhaustion in my... Yes, well done.
Well done, Grandpa.
Yes, you can have a sticker. Okay.
Yes, I remember what YouTube is, yes.
Yeah, I'll pass the grapes over in a second. You're right.
Oh, how have you been, Dan? I haven't actually spoken to you since the last episode. When between us busting conspiracy theories, you've been doing good.
I think the last time that we... Hang on, when did the last episode come out?
2 Mondays ago.
Just after we'd recorded that episode, because I believe we did it on the Thursday, the following day was my birthday. So I'm now...
It was, yeah.
I'm now a 23-year-old man.
Do you feel like you are old, wizened, wise?
This is the first birthday, I think, where I suddenly felt like I felt older.
In your lower back?
There's something, yeah. There's something about 23 that I think because it coincides with, I left university last year. I started a full-time job. I'm, suddenly adulting really quickly, and then you're 23, and it made me feel older. I don't know. I feel older turning 23 than I did turning 22, which I suppose is right because 23 is older than 22.
Yes, yeah. Age is monotonic.
Yes.
I mean, I know exactly what you mean, actually. I think I had the same thing at that age. I feel like 23 is you're in your mid-20s now. Whereas your early 20s, you're like, woo, early 20s. Like, you know, it's a party time. Whereas mid-20s, you're like, mortgages.
You're like, just maybe be a bit quieter and let's just have an early night.
No, that's been you every year, Dan.
That is true.
Externally Harry, internally Hermione. That's you in a nutshell, basically.
Internally Nicholas Flamel.
I just want a quiet life. I
want to potter around with my alchemy. So, yeah, but it was good. I had a lovely birthday. It was very jolly. We went to the pub. There was a good turnout of folk. We then went to a club where there was an equally good turnout of folk. I got very drunk. Which is, I know, shocking. I then also, which was absolutely brilliant fun, attended the Exeter Caledonian Society spring ball, which was held in the nave of Exeter Cathedral.
For our listeners at home, our readers at home, what is the Caledonian Society, for people that might not know what that means?
The Caledonian Society is a society that celebrates all things Scottish, basically. Yeah.
So it's a lot of Cayleys, whiskey.
It was great. So I'd gone for 2 weeks prior to the ball. I had been going to the rehearsals, the practices, to learn all the Cayleys.
Oh wow!
So we took it very seriously. Andrew Culver and myself, who's a bass choral scholar, we both went off and hired full Highland dress, which was absolutely brilliant fun. And we had just a really, really fantastic night. It was so good. We had an absolutely delicious supper, all in the, stunning surrounds of Exeter Cathedral's nave. There was an absolutely ludicrous amount of wine that was all included in your ticket price, so you got absolutely sizzling by quite an early hour. And then we all went. Well, certainly our group went clubbing, and Andrew and I didn't get changed. We just went out in full gear.
You were wearing a kilt.
Yes.
And were you going au naturel, or were you wearing underwear underneath the kilt?
No, I think because I knew that we'd be going clubbing, I opted for just a tasteful undergarment.
It was not also tartan to make you look like some kind of Ken doll.
Sadly not, although I do own, having recently purchased some really spectacular kind of tartan patterned underwear, but they're all in really like bright neon colours. So they've got like a yellow waistband, and they're like electric pink and green tartan, and they are incredible.
But actually, that's the point. Do you have a like family tartan? How did you choose the tartan that you went for?
I don't know. I mean, I personally chose one that I thought looked nice. So apparently, I went for, I think it was McLean of Durant or something, or Duarte. I think McLean of Duarte. And I know that my father's mother was Scottish.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I don't. So there's probably some tartaning there, but I don't know. I don't know what.
Because it's like having a coat of arms, basically, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
In Scottish tradition, because I've got cousins who are on Skye, and they've got their McLennans, so they've got a family tartan. I think somehow there's a Clark tartan, which is like a bluey greeny kind of one. And I think my mum might actually own something in it, but I don't. I think it takes a special kind of man to pull off a kilt.
Well, I mean, then class me as a special kind of man, Simon, because I think I wore it incredibly well.
Did you have a sporran?
I did. It was furry, and inside, Andrew and I had matching hip flasks full of port, and it was absolutely brilliant.
Why would you bring port? Why would you not bring whiskey?
Because we wanted something. We wanted a post-dinner drink, and port was the way to go.
I mean, I must respectfully disagree on that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I likely would have put whiskey. I have a very nice Jameson 12-year Special Reserve single malt, and it's delicious. But I no longer have any because it's all gone. So Andrew and I went halves. Yeah, it was really, really good. So Andrew and I went halvesies, as I believe the kids say. On a nice bottle of port.
And then he gave me what I think is called a baccy on his bicycle.
Yes,
as we arrived at the discotheque.
Yes. We played with a hoop and a stick. It's marvellous.
That's weird. Pixelguy and I were just watching an episode of Parks and Rec where they did an old-timey sort of living challenge, and they were playing with a stick and a hoop, which is not a reference I've heard in years and years, and now that's two in the space of about an hour. That's kind of... That's a bit
Madness.
Oh, wow.
I suppose also, just before we move on. Because we spent so much...
Sorry, you went full Shatner there.
Sorry, before we move on. I suppose I ought to just briefly say, the reason why I thought this Wikipedia article was odd, given it was the first one that I clicked when I clicked random article, I came up with Oxford groups, because I'm going to Oxford tomorrow.
Oh, are you? Oh,
yeah,
fun.
I'm going up, which is fun. I'm singing Matthew Passion in St Giles Church. Nice. With Luciat, who you may remember I toured with for a residency to Truro Cathedral last summer.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm doing that, and Sam Foster, would you believe, is singing as well, and we only realised this today, so I'm going to get to see my old tenor one partner in crime from back in our chapel choir days, which is really fun.
An absolute Adonis of a man. I love Sam Foster.
And then I'm singing with Lincoln College on Sunday for Evensong.
I'm actually heading to Oxford... Wait, hang on. I'm heading to Oxford tomorrow.
Shut your face.
I am going to Oxford tomorrow because I'm giving a talk at the maths department on Saturday morning. And I'm staying with Spiffing Brit. I only just twigged.
Well, I'm not getting in until like 9:30 in the evening.
Yeah, I need to write the talk tomorrow, and then I need to get there. But I'm hanging out with Spiffing Brit. But then on Saturday, we should meet up and film something.
We should, because I'm not needed for rehearsal until I think that it's like 1 or 2 o'clock that afternoon.
Oh, cracking! Oh, wow, I was like, it was like the Lisa Needs Braces dental plan just ringing in my ears. Like, oh, I'm going to be in Oxford on Friday. Oh, man, I really need to plan for that trip that I'm going to Oxford. tomorrow, which is Friday. Wow. Well, that's a hell of a coincidence.
I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, likewise. But you know what else I'm looking forward to, Dan?
What?
Learning what your choral piece of the week is. Boom! Segue!
And this will be my piece of the week. Drum roll, please. Bairstow. The Lamentation.
I don't think I know that one. Can you explain your invention, young man?
Well, you will be familiar with, oh golly, what's it? Sanders' Reproaches.
Yes, it was one of my favourite pieces that we ever did in Chapel Choir.
It's in a similar vein. It's a Lenten anthem that intersperses kind of psalm-style singing as we would know it, with conventional choral music. But it's like Bairstow's take on Sanders' Reproaches.
And when you say Lenten, that's because we're in the season of Lent at the moment, so it's very...
Oui, chef.
Yes, chef. No, chef, no!
Don't say
that! Oh, God. I don't think Adam put that in the last episode. I'm going to have to put a little... We're going to go from the Bairstow to this little clip, Gordon Ramsay.
2 salmon, 1 tagliatelle.
Fine dining! A fine f***ing mess! Madam! Madam! Madam!
Yes, chef!
Take your jacket off and off!
Oh, chef, don't say that, please!
So it's all very... what's the word that I'm looking for here? It's all about sort of reflection and forgiveness and that side of Christianity, right? It's all quite calm and reflective and somber.
Yeah, I wouldn't say forgiveness. I think it's like repentance, right?
Yes, so repentance is the word that I'm looking for. You're right.
It's a solemn religious observance. There you go.
Right. Oh, that doesn't sound like it was stolen from a Wikipedia article.
Shut up. No, not at all.
Shut up.
I'm... Stop it.
So mean. That's so much, hurt behind it. Shut up, dude.
So it's the Lamentations of Jeremiah, which is the same text that... is it Tallis?
Yeah, yes.
Lamentations of Jeremiah? Yeah, it is. Except the Tallis is obviously in Latin. So here's a bit of it. So the Lamentations of Jeremiah the prophet have been set by various composers.
Who was Jeremiah? I actually don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know this either. Let's have a look. So it's taken from the Book of Lamentations, which is a collection of poetic laments for the destruction of Jerusalem.
Right.
It doesn't tell me who Jeremiah was. I feel I should know this.
It's literally your bread and butter, this.
How embarrassing. So Jeremiah's a prophet. I know that because it's called the Lamentations of Jeremiah the prophet. He's also called the Weeping Prophet. He was one of the major prophets of the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament, of the Christian Bible. The difficulties he encountered, as described in the books of Jeremiah and the Lamentations, have prompted scholars to refer to him as the Weeping Prophet. He was a very sad man. The end. Okay, so there we go. We've learned something today.
Religion 101 with Dan Moore, everyone. Thus ends the lesson. The Weeping Prophet would be a great name for a villain in a 40k novel. I really like that.
Yeah. The Book of Jeremiah plays a foundational role in Christian thought as it presages the inauguration of a new covenant, to which the New Testament testifies.
So, just an Old Testament prophet. I'll accept that answer. Bank.
Wicked. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. There's tea and coffee at the back of the room. Please try the veal. It's very nice. Okay, thanks. Bye.
I'm going to have fun editing this one.
Simon, are we in Critics' Corner?
I think we are. It's very small. It's very pokey.
It's quite. I feel a bit claustrophobic.
It's a Dan-sized Critics' Corner this week. What are you bringing to the table?
Well, it's just a little... It's only a small thing.
I want to know?
I came home from Evensong today and work, and while I was eating my dinner, I was scouring Netflix for something to watch. And on a whim, I encountered some kind of anime thing.
This is going to be good.
Called Castlevania.
Ah, okay. I've heard of Castlevania.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to this is what Wikipedia, our go-to source describes it as. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Castlevania is an American adult animated web television series based on the Japanese video game series of the same name by Konami. The first 2 seasons adapt the 1989 entry Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse and follow Trevor Belmont, Alucard, and Sifar Belnades, or probably Belnades, not Belnades, but anyway, as they defend the nation of Wallachia from Dracula and his minions.
Okay.
It's quite sexually charged. I've seen the first episode. Yeah, here we go. The premise is when his wife is burnt. When his wife is burned at the stake after being falsely accused of witchcraft.
That went from 0 to 100 very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
The vampire Count Dracula declares all of the people of Wallachia will pay with their lives. He summons an army of demons which overrun the country, causing the people to live in fear and distrust. To combat this, the outcast monster hunter Trevor Belmont, which is the first time that the hero is called Trevor, takes up arms against Dracula's forces, aided by the magician Sifar Belnades and Dracula's Dhampir son Alucard. It's weird. Basically,
Okay.
It's really odd, but I'm kind of intrigued by it.
So, would you say that you're a fan of anime or hentai?
I used to. Excuse me.
Well, you said it was an adult cartoon. I wasn't sure how adult that meant it
Well,
was.
it's not quite that adult because it's on Netflix.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
It's not that kind of streaming service, Simon. I don't know. I can kind of get into that kind of thing. Anime, I mean.
Yes, yeah. Because I tried watching Attack on Titan, but I think that's the only thing I've ever watched from the genre, and I wasn't really a fan. I don't know if it was the story or if it was the genre itself, but I feel like I haven't given it enough of a go, basically.
A friend of mine, a very good friend of mine at school, used to convince me to watch, and I did watch for a bit, an anime called Cowboy Bebop.
I've heard great things about that, yeah.
And it was really good, actually. James and I, my housemate, recently finished watching all of Avatar.
Yeah, no, you're like the third person to tell me that recently. That
It's all right. It's a bit rambling.
Only 3
but...
seasons, right? It's actually quite a short thing to watch.
Yeah, except every season has like 500 episodes.
Oh, I wasn't told that bit. I mean, I've been used to TNG where it's like 26 episodes a season. They're all like 50 minutes long.
It's probably about 26. But
they're all like 20 minutes?
Yeah, about that.
Okay, that'd be quick. I could knock that out in like a week.
Yeah.
I'm not terribly productive at the moment, Dan. No, that's a lie. I generally I tend to watch one thing at lunch, and that tends to be Star Trek. But
yeah, I've watched Cowboy Bebop. What are the other ones that I've heard of before? I'm looking at. Is that Attack on Titan?
Yeah, that's the most famous one, arguably.
Yeah, I've heard of that, but I haven't seen it. There's another one that I just can't quite remember.
Are you thinking of like films like Akira?
No, I've seen quite a bit of Studio Ghibli stuff,
which is now on Netflix, apparently.
It is. It's fantastic.
So I really do. I feel like that's the world's telling me.
Oh,
I need to get
Death Note.
As in the original, not the American live-action remake.
Yeah.
Because that's the other classic
that's meant
thing.
To be amazing.
Are you watching this with subs or with dubs? So subtitled or dubbed?
It's dubbed.
No, I was always told always sub, never dub.
Yeah, the Netflix one, I probably can change it to Japanese or something. Maybe, I don't know, because Castlevania is a Netflix original.
Oh, really?
There's one. Okay, I'm currently putting into my Google search anime food orgasm, because there's a weird. Here it is. I found it.
Sure, Dan.
Oh, this is so weird. So I'm on Vice.com because they, of course, know what I'm talking about. There's an anime called Food Wars, right?
Right.
And this article is titled, "I can't stop watching this weirdly sexual cooking-themed anime."
Sure.
The first paragraph reads thusly. Have you ever eaten something you describe as orgasmic? Do you, like Marcel Proust or the food critic from Ratatouille, occasionally get transported to a distant memory by a spoonful of chicken soup or a bite of apple pie? Now imagine that, every time that happened, you experienced a euphoric dream sequence in which your clothes flew off into the ether. Or if, when you ate something disgusting, a creepy tentacle monster joined you at the table. This is Food Wars.
Wow. That's certainly
It's really, really weird. I've never seen it, but I've heard about it. Maybe we should watch Food Wars.
Maybe we should. We've got a lot of content that we said that we should either watch or play. Like Danby with the deep callbacks the other day to like Freddy Farkas Frontier Pharmacist that we said we'd play and never got around to. Like, he's got our number down, but I'm wary of saying that we should watch anything at this point.
Yeah, he's on to us.
But yeah, no, I should give it more of a go. But you've been enjoying it, basically. You've been enjoying a foray into the world of anime.
Yeah, it's been kind of interesting. As I said, I've only seen the first episode, so I might watch a second one and it could be completely just intolerable. But I don't know.
I mean,
I'm tempted to try and get into it. I feel like I'm going to do a Lewis Brindley and start defending it.
Never go full Lewis, Dan.
Yeah,
although he did very kindly did two things for me actually recently. I left my wallet in Bristol accidentally, and he posted it to me, which was very kind. Although they did
you take all the cash out first? I
didn't have it. Dan, do I look like the kind of guy that has money? I make YouTube videos for a living. Of course, I don't have money. So it was empty as it was left. And he did write Dr. Simon Clark Esquire on the envelope, which was terribly nice. I don't think he actually did it. I think Daft probably did it. And then the other day when we were streaming, we couldn't get the game that we were all trying to play to work, which was Endless Space 2. He was just like, right, we'll play Northgard. Simon, I'll buy it for you. And I just got sent like a copy on Steam by him that he paid for with his own actual money. So thank you, Lewis.
Bless him.
I as yet don't know if I agree with you on anime or not because I haven't watched enough of it. But I feel like this has spurred me to give it more of a go. And, you know, you're all right in my book, so perhaps I should give it more of a shot.
Marvellous.
Very quickly, something that I will recommend. I said this on stream the other day. Have you ever heard of a guy called Ross Edgley?
I have not.
So he's a really interesting guy who has done a bunch of sporting challenges. And the one that I've really gotten into with watching with Pixel Girl is he swam around Great Britain. So in something like 170 days straight, he swam for like an average of 10 or 12 hours a day from Margate right down the south coast up to the tip of Scotland, down the east coast. And he was in the water for so long that like his tongue started dissolving because of the salt.
Oh my gosh.
He lost the arches in his feet. He found it difficult to walk when he was because he was just spending so little time on his feet. And he was sponsored by Red Bull and they produced a series about him. So there's like an episode a week. And this was like a year or so ago. So it's all out there. And it's just, really interesting, compelling viewing because it's like him struggling through it. And when you're swimming, you obviously have like a lot of time to reflect because you can't listen to music or anything. So you do a lot of interesting thinking when you're swimming, and he did a lot of swimming. So he's got some interesting thoughts. But I found him because of Niall Wilson's gymnastics channel. And the guy looks jacked. He looks like a Greek god. It's kind of amazing. So if people are into that kind of thing for whatever reason, or if you like inspirational stuff, give Ross Edgley a go, and I'll put a link to all the stuff we talk about in the show notes, as always. I think that leaves us, Dan, to go and make a special announcement in Patreon Corner.
Whoa.
Top lad! So, Dan, the special announcement which we have to make in Patreon Corner. But actually, before I make that, let's hold the tension a little bit higher. What is Patreon, Dan, in like 20 words or fewer?
I'm so glad you asked, Simon. I'm so glad you asked. Patreon is massively important. It's
right, that's your 20 words up. Thanks, Dan. Sorry, I'll give you another 20. Go.
No, that's it.
That's it.
You got your 20.
If you didn't know what it was before, you're not gonna know now. You should have paid more attention. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/the Wikicast, and it pays for making the show possible. Basically, it pays for our server rent for the podcast hosting. It pays for editing. When Adam edits the show for us, and allows us to do some other ventures. But what Patreon also allows us to do is if you donate to the Patreon, then you get to vote on certain aspects of the show. And I put in a poll last week asking the good readership of the show, who should we invite to be our guest on the podcast, because we got quite a few people that have said they'd be interested in coming on, have expressed an interest in being subjected to our unique form of comedy, and the vote was between a couple of individuals. The winner was Hannah Witten, so I will have a chat to Hannah and I will attempt to book her in. She's a very busy girl, but I will attempt to book her in, and we'll get Dan hot under the collar with basically anything Hannah says. It's going to be quite the show, I think.
How
ladies and
exciting.
gentlemen. But yeah, so we've got options in the future, but at some point in the next couple of weeks, we will be having a guest. So best be on your best behaviour, Dan.
I'm always on my best behaviour.
Yeah, that's worrying because it says a lot about how good your behaviour could. You've already hit the ceiling of your behaviour.
It's what? Sorry.
It's worrying.
Oh, for goodness sake.
It's been a while since we've had that callback.
Oh yeah, that's a throwback. I dusted off an old one there. That's pretty good.
And he doesn't mean what he does behind the cathedral.
How nice.
Right. Do you want to say thank you to anyone in particular, Dan?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked.
I'm still trying to work out what dusted off an old one means. I can't
just
tell
closed
if you're doing
Patreon,
assassinations or if you're like doing favours for the parishioners.
I'd like to say thank you to our top dogs.
Oh, of course you would. Yes, that seems like very much something you would do.
And they read thusly. Alistair Fortune, Ben McMurtry, Colin J. Brown, Eric Davis, Eric Bolliger, Eve Sharples, again, Jackson de Borgorsky, Kodzo, Kyle Perry, Maggie, Peter Reed, and Samantha. Thank you so much.
I, like the sensible person that I am, would like to thank, however, the top cats, the people who believe that cats are the superior household pet, and so are correct. I'd like to thank Chocker Cat, Christopher Betterton, Carl Mansfield, the one and only Daniel Hanvey, Isabel Ostrowski, John Mannion, Kenneth Kuzmierek, Layla Medina, Lewis Watson, Nafi Iftikhar, I'm going to go with that, Oliver Burkhart, Oliver Craigie, Omar Miranda, Princess Andromeda, Rents Kirk, River Ward, Tom Withington, and Trustworthy Ginger. Thank you, one and all, and I'll give a special shout-out to a $1 patron. That's all we want. We just want you to buy us a can of Coke every month, guys, to help us keep the show on the road. I would like to say thank you very much to Alicia Williams. Thank you for supporting the show.
Marvellous.
Do you want to do that for a $1 dog, or not? Do they not deserve it?
Yeah, okay. Let's do it. Let's do it. I would like to say a huge thank you to Adam Batten.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Thadam.
Yes. Move. Yeah, good. This is good. This is good.
Top lad. Daniel. Sorry, can I get a little bit more enthusiasm from this, please?
Sorry. I was in another place.
Daniel.
Yes, my love.
You're like that baby. You know, the peanut butter coloured baby.
Does it feel good?
Right, so let's try that again, shall we? Daniel,
Yes.
we got a confession for us.
Oh no.
We're making a return to the Church of County Pedantry.
Oh my goodness.
We got
It's been so long.
We're gonna fit ourselves into the confessional booth, and Dan's. Have you been dusting off old ones in here?
I have. Sorry,
There's
I've left a bit of a mess.
Pungent odor in here. Anyway, we got a confession here from Redacted. Dear Mrs.
Very, very good.
Dear Mrs. Clark, PhD, and more. Signed of Moore's forehead and Clark's beard. What would the sign of Moore's forehead be? Is it just like the?
I don't know.
Is
It's
it
a
like
never-ending sign.
the John Cena, like you can't see me, but just like over the forehead, as if you're buffing it?
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
And you have to go
To a high sheen.
Forgive me, fathers, for I have sinned. My last confession was 3 millennia, 4 centuries, 1 decade, 2. Jesus Christ, you're 3,000 years old. 1 decade, 2 years, 5 months, 2 weeks, 6 days, 9 hours, 8 minutes, 7 seconds, and half a plank time ago. When what?
Brilliant.
Hang on. 3,412 years ago. 2018 minus 3,412. What happened to the year in 593 BC? Nothing happens apart from Sappho returns from exile in Sicily. Actually, no.
Hey, that's good. Sappho's a legend.
Actually, it's not quite right, because did you know that there is no year 0 in the Julian, well, in the AD or whatever it is, CE BC calendar? There is no year 0. So
There you go.
You have to go back an additional one. In which case, Sappho still returns from exile in Sicily. Well, that was an exercise worth doing anyway. You're bloody old, Redacted.
Brilliant, yeah, thanks for that.
During the past general election, December 2019, I, a foreign national, obviously from Ireland, interfered in the democratic process through a financial contribution. I wanted to see the Right Honourable Jeremy Corbyn get Brexit done and rebuild public ownership. Yes, I know that was not his slogan. To this end, I sent something like 20 United States dollars to the Labour Party. I recognise that as a US citizen, I should not be involving myself in the affairs of other countries' elections. However, I was tantalised by the fact that the UK election law only classifies contributions worth more than £500 sterling as donations, and thus anything smaller than that is not regulated, making everything I did completely legal. Nonetheless, I felt overcome by guilt, especially having received the thank you note sent at the beginning of December. But arriving nearly a month after the election, I was reminded of this great sin of election interference that everyone keeps talking about. This is all I can remember. I'm sorry for these and all my sins. Now, what's interesting here, Dan, is that Redacted has worked out that they've not actually done anything wrong. Illegal. I mean,
So in a way,
immoral.
they've quite helpfully done our job for us.
But more
nevertheless,
than that, they have also put together a would it be a responsory prayer? I'm not quite sure
it reads like a collect.
Yeah, it's like we are truly sorry for everything that we've done. Please, no ban.
It's like the penitential rite.
That's it, the penitential rite. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
So Redacted has helpfully written out a prayer for themselves here. Oh, my Spongy. Oh, my Spongy. I am heartily sorry. Sorry. That's a deep cut for choral listeners. I'm heartily sorry for having offended thee, and I detest all of my sins, because I dread the loss of electric and the pains of missing your episodes because I was too busy, but most of all, because they offend thee, my Spongy, who art all good and deserving of all of my cats and dogs. I firmly resolve, with the help of thy grace, to confess my sins, to do penance, and to amend my life. Oh, man. Oh, that's meant to be amen. I just realised.
Very good. Very good.
Most sincerely, Redacted. Oh, for the love of God. 2.26. This is like I feel like I'm Captain Picard reading out a star date now.
Yeah.
2.262193 259587780668753 406 1426 1 5 6 5 times 10 to the 8 seconds old.
Marvellous.
And then at the end of the message, yeet? Question mark.
Yeah, that's how they do it. That's how you properly sign off a formal letter.
Wow, Redacted. Well, I think you've absolved yourself. That was the most efficient absolution that we've ever had.
Fantastic.
So
yeah, Redacted. Very, very fine indeed.
Well, thank you very much for getting in touch. If you have something that you would like to confess to, you can receive a guaranteed absolution unless it's for war crimes in the Church of County Pedantry, which is in the Irish quarter of Dubai. I can't remember what the law was for this.
I'm just going through the correspondence.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in here.
We've got one that jumps out straight away. I might, if I could have a moment of your time, I'll read it through.
Of course.
This is Dear Messrs Clark and Moore. Firstly, may I say an enormous thank you to Prof. Moore for the mention of one's own composition in Choral Piece of the Week in a previous pod. I am, and was, very flattered to have featured in your little project and venture, and to have read some airtime. Hats off. Thank you.
Is this an email from John Sanders?
This is, yeah, it is. It's actually it's Thomas Tallis. He was quick off the mark.
God!
Yeah, I know. Lamentations of Jeremiah, fantastic. No, this is Professor Matthew Cann.
Ah, of course.
He goes on to say, I would like to suggest a plan for the future. ultimately incorporating listening to your podcast with a drinking game. Anytime either one of you mentions gosh, golly, or some other 1920s vocalization of surprise, drink. I imagine one might end up rather squiffy if this were the case.
Oh,
I think he's probably
word.
right.
I would love nothing more than for our readership to come up with a drinking game for the Wikicast.
Wikicast bingo.
No. It's got to be drinking in there. I demand that. Can you imagine how great it would be if people had like a listening party or something, or you just like have it on in the background with a significant other, and you just get hammered together,
or an insignificant other if you're in that kind of situation.
Yeah, whatever floats your boat. It's 2020. Relationships are complicated. That's one, because the thing is that's absolutely squarely aimed at you, and I don't think it's fair that you should be the one that's getting everybody drunk on your own. Like, we need readers, write into us and let us know what you think a good, fair drinking game that would mean that both Dan and I are causing merriment in equal measure.
If we can get some good ideas and we can formalize it, we'll put it into some kind of document or visual aid, and we'll pop it on the Patreon and the Facebook page for people to peruse at your leisure.
Yes. Absolutely.
Mr. Can goes on to say, and this is an even better idea for this drinking game. I, for one, will not, however, be partaking in this game, as I tend to read your podcast while at the gymnasium, discotheque, or while driving my automotive mobile. Therefore, participation could result in severe personal injury and endangerment of life for others. Now, the latter seems a perfect reason to do this game.
Yes, absolutely.
Is this an idea worth running up the flagpole to see if anyone salutes? Worth putting into bed and seeing if anyone shags it? Worth putting in one's pipe and seeing if one smokes it? So many allergies, so little time. Yours, Matthew Can, of Foborden fame, age something ludicrous that I can't even calculate. Very, very fine. Well, thank you, Professor Can, for that
I think we asked this a while ago, but I'm not sure how many responses we actually had. I would love to hear if people read the podcast in unusual places. Like, where do you read the show? Because I tend to read podcasts at the gym. I read The Greatest Generation at the gym, or when I'm doing the washing up. Those tend to be the two times that I do so. Whereas when we were at home, you used to have stuff on in the background all the time. Do you listen to it at work?
All the time. Yeah. So I usually have at least only one headphone in, so as not to appear rude. But it varies from listening to. I'm always listening to something. It's either music, podcasts, audiobooks, anything. But I like having something just kind of blipping away. Sometimes it's even this Wikicast, you know. This just to check that we're still maintaining the sickeningly high standards of broadcasting. That we aim for. We are in the podcasting sphere. Simon and I we only ever skim the zenith of quality.
Purely unintentionally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're just looking at the map the wrong way around. We think it's the nadir, but actually
it's the zenith.
Zenith.
Keep delving, Dan. I want to meet the Balrog.
We shall continue to dig too greedily and too deep.
Woof.
Okay. Oh gosh. Oh, there's a gosh there.
We have an email here from the one and only Daniel Hanvey, who has come up with, on the subject of our announcement earlier, some more podcast guest suggestions. He's suggesting that we could possibly get Hugo the Human Wickham.
Yes, he does. It's surprising how many people know that nickname of his that he's tried to repress for years.
Oh, Wiki
the Human
Boy.
Wick, as we all call him. Yeah, that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, and he can get quite hot sometimes. He's he's a sweaty man.
Quite hot-headed, fiery.
So I'm sure that there's he's got quite a tallow complexion. I'm working on it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Who else is he recommending? Chris Trott. I would love to get with the hats. I don't think we could have all three at once. I think it would be a bit much.
It might be a bit much. I think they also each deserve their own time.
I think so. Maybe we could do back-to-back episodes, or we'd have like a relay where they trade in and out. You know.
Yeah. Tag team.
That's also Matt Gray or Tom Scott. Now I reckon both of them would probably say yes. I know Tom is leaving the UK for a year. He's going travelling, so that may be difficult. But Matt, I'm sure, would come on, and he is a professional audio person, so no doubt be bowled over bowled over by the quality of our operation here. So
I'm sure.
Dear readers, if you could think of anybody that you think would make a good podcast guest, do let us know. Can't work wonders. We only know so many people and have so many, favours and things to pull in, but we can try our best to make stuff work. So let us know who you'd like to see come on the show.
And I think finally, Simon, we have one last piece of correspondence for today's episode. Comes to us from Fergus Hall.
I remember.
And the email is
that
titled
name.
James Macmillan and something else that might assume you. Dear Messrs. Mlark and Core. We don't think we've had that before.
No, I think we've had that. We've definitely had that.
Oh, have we? Oh, sorry, Fergus. Never mind. Try harder next time. I am the guy that emailed about Gaelic psalm music.
Yes.
Just before the great hiatus of 2019. I remember it well.
The secret ex maledictum of the podcast.
When Dan mentioned Miserere last episode, I immediately thought Macmillan. I'm so glad that amazing piece got a mention. I love it. That key change at the end, though, it is excellent. Macmillan is a very interesting composer whose music I've been very into for a while. The 16 have an album of Macmillan's music, including the Miserere. I have that very album. It's very fine indeed. I would absolutely recommend O Bone Jesu, Gallant Weaver, and 7 Last Words from the Cross, which is an awesome text, actually. That's a really great American composer called Daniel Elder, who does a lot of composition for Westminster Choir School in America. And his setting of the 7 Last Words of the Cross is incredibly powerful. It's very, very good.
I don't think I know that. I'll have to give it a listen when I'm editing this one.
The last one is a bit intense, but certainly worth a listen. Sorry to whittle on, bit of a geek in this department. Unrelated note, do either of you listen to the Australian band Tame Impala? If not, certainly have a look at the album for the...
I know that
Lookout.
name.
Yeah, I used to listen to them.
I swear I
haven't listened to them in ages,
recently.
but I need to. It's Tame Impala. That's a good suggestion. All the best, Fergus. And then there's a link to his website, which is pretty cool.
A web zone.
Fergus Hall, composer and musician. I've got to click to enter. I'm doing that right now.
Oh.
If any listeners want to check out Fergus's website,
If you want to send in some pizza rolls,
fergushallcomposer.com.
we'll put a link to his web zone in the description. Into the show notes even. Sorry, it's not YouTube. I've got YouTube on the Brain Dan. I've been making a lot of videos recently.
This looks really cool.
Nice one, Fergus.
Yeah, keep it up.
Yeah, keep it up, and I will actually have to check out that recommendation because I do like Macmillan's stuff, and I need to broaden out that bit of my listening. So excellent correspondence all round, I think. So Daniel, what have we learned today?
Simon, today we learned about the Oxford Group, which was much like last episode, a weirdly roaming, dark,
maybe a
tangential
cult with slight Nazi sympathizing roots.
Maybe. Well, I don't know whether it's strictly sympathizing because I think they were trying to dissuade Hitler from going down the route of World War, but they do say phrases like a new world order.
Yeah, it's got touches of the 30s over it. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, it doesn't really float my proverbial goat, so I've got to be careful there.
Goats, those famous aquatic animals.
Yeah.
You know, you get seahorses. Do you get water sheep or anything like that? I'm trying to think.
Sorry, can you just think about what came out of your mouth?
Yeah.
And then,
I'm trying to think what animals.
Do you get water sheep?
What farmyard animals have aquatic? Yeah, you do. Like
you've got
sea
a
cows.
PhD.
You get sea cows like dugongs.
Yeah, but why didn't you say sea cow then, not water sheep?
Well, it's like
water sheep. Late December 63.
Like tardigrades of water pigs. They help.
Simon, it's fine.
I'm gonna back to Winnipeg. Hang on, water sheep. The PewDiePie wiki. There is a thing.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
But it's like, are water goats actually a thing? Water goat sheep is the most lucky in life according to Chinese zodiac astrology. Oh, and there's some amazing stock footage of like goats apparently surfing. Wow, look at these guys kidding around. Hang on.
Yeah, very good.
I'm gonna send you a picture on Discord. One sec. That is a goat that has been floated proverbially.
Wow, golly. That's quite a fetching yellow life jacket it's wearing.
I think you mean Billy.
If you keep doing these awful puns, Simon, I'm going to get angry. I'm going to get quite gruff.
Ah, nice.
Brilliant. What were we saying? Something, high quality broadcasting, something,
Dark side.
zenith of production and content.
No, it's definitely the apex. This is definitely as good as it gets. That's all for this week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice. You can like us on Facebook, and if you'd like to see our faces, if we're going to change the outro, maybe we should change this bit as well. But actually, no, we'll film something this weekend.
Yeah, it's fine.
We'll prove ourselves right.
It's fine.
It's fine. If you'd like to see our faces, check out our YouTube channels, Spongy and Electric.
Your own podcast reading locations, drinking game suggestions, and other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Join us again for another tumble down the wiki rabbit hole,
and we'll see you next time.